Hi, I'm going to read a bit from Run or Love, and it involves lots of animals as well as our two main characters. So I'm going to read a bit for when Suzanna meets a horse and is a little surprised about it and not very keen, although Freddie enjoys the experience. So this is the end of chapter 21 and the beginning of chapter 22. Suzanna was feeling buoyant as she's headed off to her first challenge, already feeling like she'd survived a week of difficulties. How bad could it be? But when she rounded the tree-lined corner by the field, she nearly walked into a horse who snorted in her face. She squealed, and the horse backed off a little, ears flicking in curiosity. "What is this?" she demanded, of no one in particular. "It's a horse," said Freddie, having caught up with her. "Funny," said Suzanna. "What's it doing here?" You might be riding him later." "Like hell I will." "That depends on whether you want to impress the cameras." He was right. If she was going to retain her image, she would have to complete the challenges that had been set. But horses, big, smelly creatures that bit, kicked and ran fast. She'd fallen off a grumpy donkey on Weymouth Beach when she was 4 and hadn't been near an equine since. The crew were busy talking to a man in a Stetson. It looked odd to see a cowboy at an English country estate. If she wasn't so cross about being forced to do something she hated, she would have laughed. Then she realised it was the elderly man from the lounge, and her heart sank. Freddie started to make friends with the horse by stroking his neck and back. Suzanna watched him, his gentleness and patience, and gradually increasing in confidence. She stood next to him and gingerly reached forward towards the horse's neck. If Freddie could touch it, so could she. She was curious to know what it would feel like. Her phone rang, not only interrupting the moment, but startling the horse, who raised his head and knocked her hand away. Freddie continued to stroke the animal, but Suzanna backed away. Suddenly, not trusting it, she answered the call. It was Rupert. She demanded to know if he'd told Lily she hated horses. He had. She'd been set up again. Chapter 22. A circular pen, made of tall panels of metal fencing, had been set up next to one of the paddocks. Freddie was watching the horse that had been led into it. The mare had been worried at first, head up, nostrils flaring, and making the odd whinny to her friends, but was soon grazing happily. Rachel told him that this was his horse, the one he'd be working with. The cowboy was moving a saddle and other equipment to the entrance of the pen and invited Freddie to join him. "The name's John, nice to meet you." His teacher, a muscly and moustached Texan, offered his hand, and Freddie took it. He could feel the power, not just in physical strength, but a self-assured presence too. Someone who knew how the world worked and was patient and generous enough to share that knowledge. A good leader, one he'd follow into battle. "Shall we make a start?" John said, hands now in jeans pockets. A relaxed posture that signalled he had all the time to spare and wouldn't rush for anyone. "I've never done this before," replied Freddie, not mentioning the camels. "Oh, Sugar in there won't mind. Just be true to yourself and she'll teach you everything you need to know." Freddie opened the pen door. The horse looked up, suspicious. "Won't she kick out or something?" "Only if you spook her. Go on, in you go. If you look like you're struggling, I'll tell you what you need to do. Most of it is intuition." Freddie went in slowly and closed the gate behind him. He spent a few minutes looking at Sugar, her shiny brown coat glowing red in the sunlight. Her mane and tail, slightly darker, had been brushed and trimmed neatly. She had the appearance of a model, ready to adorn a calendar. She went back to her grazing. "Great," said John. "She's accepting you." "But I haven't done anything," Freddie protested. "Exactly." So that's the end of this. So the rest of the chapter shows you how Freddie gets on with the training, and then when he's had a go, it's Suzanna's go, and it doesn't go quite to plan. So I hope you enjoyed listening to that, and maybe you could buy the book and see what happens next. Thanks for listening. Bye.